You are now listening to the Internal Affairz podcast.
Welcome back. This is the Internal Affairz podcast. This is the first episode of 2021. I took like a little hiatus real quick. I really was in a gist of moving. I just moved from up north all the way down south, so I'm just pretty much getting settled in, getting grounded and acclimated with my surroundings. And It's been a crazy year. 2020 was a crazy year, and for me, it been even more of, I wouldn't say crazy, but very telling, very enlightening, very I learned a lot about myself in this past year, and especially in this past month, and some change that showed me a side of myself that I overlooked, a side of myself that really kind of went unnoticed, no matter how bad the circumstances turned out to be within my relationships, within my life in general, my personal life. It has been a lot of tendencies, a lot of traits, a lot of patterns that I've recognized within myself in this past month and throughout the year. And I really will have to give credit to my relationships, even a lot of them that didn't last, and a lot of them that I'm not in right now due to my lack of ability to really be consistent within those relationships because of what we're going to talk about here today, the residue. Now, what is the residue? To sum it up, the residue is pretty much the accumulation of all your life experiences, good, bad, indifferent, but I would rather focus on the traumatic experiences, because those are the experiences that as a child we like to hide away. We do it subconsciously. We hide them away because these traits, these tendencies aren't accepted by society. They're not accepted by the culture on a collective scale. So what we do is, as children, we like to tuck them away, these experiences, these traumatic experiences, and kind of hide from them. And then when we become adults, these traits sort of hide from us. Even though they come out in the rinse regardless, it's hard to figure out where they come from. So I just want to touch on some of those things. But yeah, let's talk about 2020 first, man. It was a crazy year. A lot changed. We had the pandemic come in. It's still going. A lot of people are sick. A lot of people lost their jobs. Half of America is unemployed right now. The kids are at home, bored. The teachers seem to be bored. So yeah, it's been a crazy year. It's been a year where you had to be a lot more still than any other year. And with that being said, it kind of forced us to be more introverted, do more introspection and reflection on our life circumstances, our decisions, our behaviors, the words we say, our routines, all of that. It kind of forced you to reevaluate your friend circle, your workplace, your place of residence. Even if you want to or not, I feel like this was a year where we could all agree that it's been a challenging year. However, it's been a very necessary year, because I feel like the routines that we follow, the system that we depend on, the structure that we depend on, the routines that we are used to following on a day-to-day have pretty much been broken down to a point that they're not as reliant as they used to be. Therefore, like I said, we're forced to do something new. We're forced to change. We're forced to, like I said, be still. We're forced to, kind of go in our little hermit mode and reevaluate some things, whether you want to or not. It's just pretty much, I feel like 2020 put it right in your face, and it's just something that you pretty much can't hide from. I know a lot of people are in the early stages of what I'm gonna talk about here today, and that's like denial of the reality that we live in. Because 2020 was like 2020 vision. Hindsight is like it gave you a glimpse of what reality truly is. And I always say reality is uncertainty. No matter how many routines we like to cling to, no matter how much we like to depend on systems, and depending on tomorrow pretty much being a lot like today. No matter how much we want to cling to those things, 2020 showed us that it's time for you to walk a new path. It's time for you to dig a little deeper. It's time for you to ask yourself some challenging questions. And here we are, 2021. As you can see in the title, it's called The Residue. And like I said, the residue is pretty much those experiences left behind, especially the traumatic experiences that we all have cultivated along our existence here. So, and these, like I said, these experiences get tucked away and we hide them as a child because, like I said, they're not acceptable by society. They might not be acceptable by a family. They might even be against the law and things of that nature, or against the norm. It might be good traits, like I said. It just might be weird as opposed to society, right? So as we become adults, these traits hide from us, and because we are unconscious to them, they act as like the puppet master and control our reactions. I was going to say responses, but responding and reacting is two different things. When you respond to something, you take into account that you have some responsibility and come from a place more of what the approach would be, more was needed for that specific situation. I hope I'm making sense right now. But reactions, when we reactionary because of our triggers, because of what happened in our adolescent years and those unhealed wounds, we wind up lashing out. We get triggered and we go right back, just like the movie Get Out. If you ever saw the movie Get Out, if you didn't, it's something that you could find some good information in, because it's a part on Get Out when a lady, she's stirring a spoon, and she asks the guy, as he's an adult, she asks him, what happened when you was young? Tell me about a traumatic experience that you felt helpless in. So she kind of hypnotized him, and she took him back to a place where he was helpless, and he became frozen, and he became anxious, and he was hyperventilating and all type of stuff. He was just traumatized. It was like he had PTSD right there on the spot. And that's what happens with these tendencies that I like to call a residue. Now, I had been wondering for a while now, with my creative endeavors and my self-expression in my personal life, on the podcast, and a lot of other things that I do, I was wondering, why is my self-expression and authenticity seem to have a ceiling on it, or a cap on it, or it seemed to be some restraint there, and I really couldn't understand it. So this last month of me making the transition from moving from one state to another, changing my surroundings, leaving behind a few relationships, and just my old routine and things of that nature, I've noticed that I have a lot of tendencies. I have a lot of things that play a big part in my relationships, because I would like to think I'm just an angel and everything is good and the other person is always wrong. And that's what could happen when we don't deal with the residue. So as I'm making this transition from one place to another, it forced me to be more alert. It forced me to be more alarmed to my own, like I said, tendencies, my own patterns and knee-jerk reactions. And this ties back into my creative expression, because I was wondering why don't I give a more intimate version of myself, a more authentic version of myself. And then I had to dig in my closet, and what I realized when I dug in my closet was this: a lot of them skeletons that's in my closet, a lot of my knee-jerk reactions stem back from my past of being adolescent. Some in my teenage years, but really just being real young and being around a certain area, being raised in a certain environment, having aunts, uncles, cousins around and picking up influences from them. And I realized that, I've been protecting this. Feel like I've been protecting these stories over the years because they involve other people. And I came to the conclusion now, I have to speak my truth regardless of who gets offended or if they think I'm talking about them and things of that nature. And that goes back to being a child. When you're a child, your uncle do something, your aunt do something, they lie something in front of you, you sweep it under the rug, or they have you lie or some shit like that, or they do something around you that's out of the norm, or that's kind of something a child shouldn't be seeing or be involved in. You kind of sweep it under the rug because you want to protect them. That's your aunt, that's your uncle. You look at them like your protectors, your providers. You look at them like a superhero almost. So I realized that how I am today has a lot to do with my entire life, all of the experiences that I have accumulated along the way. And I realized, you can't just throw that shit away. You can't just act like a lot of that shit that it didn't happen, because if you don't skim through it, dig deep and look through it, you'll just be continuing these patterns and not knowing where they stemming from. So, and that's what we like to think as adults. We like to think like, I'm 40 now, I'm 30 now, I'm 25 now, I'm grown, I make my own decisions. And that might seem to be the truth, but I got a question for you. This question came across my lap. It seemed like a no-brainer to me. The question was, would you let a child run your life? Would you let a child dictate your decisions and your circumstances and your outcomes of your life or your destiny? And I was like, hell no, I'm a grown man. I would never let that happen. But as I dug a little deeper into the question and really, really meditated on the answer, I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what's happening in my life today. A lot of the things that happened when I was younger, a lot of the insecurities, the fears, the doubts, the self-worth issues, the lack of empathy, all of the decisions that I made are accumulation of my upbringing. You can't blame it on your upbringing. You can't really blame it on your surroundings, but you are held accountable for doing the work to tether those cords, to cure yourself and to find out the root of those issues so that you can reverse engineer those patterns and live in a more healthier way. I hope I'm making sense. I think I am. So as I'm doing that, and I'm in the midst of doing that right now, I just started to, skim through my childhood. And I was like, let me see where my first time I really truly felt insecure and felt like I lacked something. And this goes so far back. I'm looking at my life like, I have had this fear of failure and this fear of lack and fear of closeness and intimacy. I've been carrying it with me for a long time. And I had to ask myself, like, where did it first stem from? So I went back in my childhood and I got plenty of stories. But I realized, like, the household that I grew up in, and I know a lot of y'all could attest to this, when you grow up in a household when it's a lot of adults around, a lot of children, there's not enough room for you. You don't get the majority of the attention that a child might need or feel that they might need at that time. You start to feel like neglected or abandoned and things of that nature. And it might not be your parents' fault. It might just be the circumstance and the situation that y'all in. Because I come from a household that at one point it was 19 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment. My grandmother was holding everything down, like all the bills, feeding everybody, and everybody pretty much was just feeding off my grandmother's energy, right? Now with 19 people being in the house, and might I add, 90% of the adults were drug addicts. So I'm looking at my life, right? As the years go on, I'm looking at my life like it's normal because all my peers are going through this. I go down the street, my homeboy, he don't know his father neither. I go around the corner, my homegirl, her mother on drugs too. Her aunt stealing from her too. Her uncle lying to her too. So it seemed to be normal. And then you go outside and the environment crazy. And America's crazy, period. So everybody is dealing with some type of trauma. But I'm just telling some of my truth to like tie this in with the reason why I picked up on a lot of the patterns that I picked up on, a lot of the tendencies that I picked up on, in hopes that you could, you know what I mean, you could relate and tie some chords and see where some of your knee-jerk reactions and some of your patterns and triggers are stemming from. So like I said, even when I went outside, it was crazy. You know, you might be going to the store with somebody one day. This as a youngin'. You might be going to the store with somebody one day or seeing one day, and the next day they dead, and the next week they having a funeral at 14 or 15. This was like all summer in my life. You know what I mean? Every summer. All throughout the winter, you could bet somebody was gonna have a funeral at least once a month. So with me seeing shit like that, I didn't realize it put like a layer on me of protection to where like I'm extra alert, I'm hypersensitive, I'm hyper vigilant to everything around me just by default by being in this area. And these are the things that America, society, the government, the culture, and the doctors don't take into account when they're diagnosing people, giving kids pills and putting them on bipolar disorder and personality disorder and calling them narcissists and all of these names and basically labeling them and throwing them away and making them a statistic and making their life even harder for them. A lot of my listeners might understand what I'm talking about. Y'all might have been through it already, going through the system. So these are the conversations that nobody really be having, or people be thinking and shit and don't never say nothing because they be feeling like they crazy or they don't want nobody to think they weak. You feel what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. I say at least 85% of America probably having suicidal thoughts right now, and probably been having them for the last 20 years. Your parents, your grandparents. And nobody speaks on it. Everybody numb it up. Everybody drown it out. Everybody wants to avoid it. And a lot of times, even as a family unit, these type of problems are avoided because it's like the family secret. They don't want to know that Uncle so-and-so touched on little so-and-so and things of that nature, and you keep it a family secret and then build this type of tension. A lot of us had neglectful parents, absent parents, parents that cause us to have self-worth issues, and you know, now we out here having fucked up relationships, don't know how to treat people. You know what I mean? I'm guilty of all of this, like, and not knowing why we doing it. That's the problem, the awareness. If you don't have the awareness of it, then you just pretty much a robot. You almost don't even have free will. You'll just keep recreating these same experiences over and over and over again. So like I said, my environment was hostile. So I noticed even when I used to travel, because I played basketball, I traveled to an area, more suburban area, more safe area. Or even the last 5 or 6 years of my life, I lived out of state from where I'm raised at. I noticed that my guard still was up with people. My guard was still up in relationships. On so many levels. Just walking down the street, you know, I got a certain my head on the swivel. I'm looking like, because where I'm from, I'm so used to crazy things happening. People, you can't let nobody get close to you. Somebody, you got to see who is who and things of that nature. And when it comes to just consistency in relationships, it take a toll on you, because if you not in no consistent relationship with your parents or your caretakers or anybody in your environment is consistent, then you don't know how to do that neither. We learn from demonstration. We creatures of habit and repetition. And like I said, these are the things that nobody really dig in the crevices of and talk about. Like I said, a lot of it is embarrassing. Nobody want to consider themselves incapable of being in a relationship, and capable of being consistent, and capable of reaching their goals or doing anything outside the norm or their family structure or their community or even just in the eyes of society. So, like I said, as I was growing up, I'm going to keep giving y'all the story, and I'm going to just chime in a little bit and make my little points, you know what I mean? I'm trying something new. I'm trying to be be more of a service to my listeners and my subscribers, and touch on things that are more personal to me, so that I could give you that feel, I could give you that conviction. You feel what I'm saying? Because these are things I actually went through. You feel what I'm saying? So, like I said, growing up in a house with 19 kids, 19 people, and being around drug addicts, and worrying about getting your things stolen, and going outside, and then you have to like put up a certain type of armor because it's a certain type of atmosphere. It makes you, it molds you. So when you become an adult, and if you stay in that environment, in that area, and continue on with those family members or those friends and environments throughout your adulthood, it just reinforced that your tendencies, your patterns, your triggers, your knee-jerk reactions, it just support it. It just tell you, oh nah, this is cool, this is what everybody else do. Now when you step outside of that box, it's a whole nother world out here for us. And this is the thing that society knows. This is the thing that America knows. There's something your parents might not know, because a lot of times your parents hold these same type of narcissistic tendencies, these same type of mood swings, and self-sabotaging patterns. And it's like the biggest question is, how do you get past it? How do you heal it? And the first step to healing it is you have to recognize it. You have to be able to recognize the patterns. You have to be able to, first and foremost, right, like I said, recognize them. And then you have to sit and get past the guilt and the shame of a lot of the things that you've done to others through these patterns. You have to forgive the people that place this burden onto you unknowingly a lot of times, and knowingly. This is the only true way to heal. And this is something that's really missing in society, period. Everybody want a quick, instant gratification type of thing where they take a pill and everything's all right. But I'm going to tell you, we got a lot of high functioning people that are anxiety ridden, they're depressed, and these are our doctors, these are our government officials and all type of things. And you could always tell, like when you go to a company, like I worked for a company for 3 years, and could tell by how the managers treated us. Then I would see like the general managers come in and treat them bad, and then I would see like the owners treat the general managers bad. So you could just see like the behavior pattern where it's like just hereditary and passed on down. But 2021 is showing us something totally different. 2020 showed us something totally different. It showed us that you are going to either face it, readjust, refine, get out of denial, and really just pinpoint where these things came from and get some healing, so that you could be the best version of yourself, so that you could be authentic, so that you could be capable of being in a relationship that you could coexist in and bring and add value to it, and not be the person that's being self-critical to the other person, that's being analytical and breaking somebody down. These are the traits that coming from these type of environments and coming from distorted people. And like I said, your parents might not have meant it really. Like, these patterns are very strong and they very like subtle. And like I said, we hide them away as children, so they hide from us when we're adults. These traits and these patterns will have to put you in a situation to it's like right in your face, or you will have to just really want to walk that path of healing and spirituality, and get some type of spiritual inclination in your life to begin to heal this shit. But what I'm trying to say is, this shit gotta become a normal conversation. That's how I feel. Like, it's a lot of YouTube personalities out there, a lot of people talking about, I listen to a lot of shit. I listen to the motivation, I look at the spiritual side of it, the tarot cards. It's a lot of good healing methods out there. Religion even helped to a certain degree. So it's just about the person, if you really, really want to heal. But I got a couple stories for y'all just to give y'all some insight on how my childhood was like, because it was crazy. When I think of my childhood, I think of the TV show Everybody Hates Chris, because it's like Chris Rock as an adult is giving you some insight on how he became to be who he is at the present time. And that's pretty much what I want to give you on this podcast. So my first brush with negotiating myself, bargaining myself, right? The first, and not really willingly, but kind of willingly, I was young, right? So one of my aunts was supposed to take me trick-or-treating one year, right? So I put my mask on, you know, I'm chilling. We go to the first corner. Mind you, my aunt is addicted to drugs at this time. So her mind state is automatically like a narcissistic mind state, because a drug addict only could think of how could they get their next hit above all else. You get what I'm saying? So I'm walking, I'm being around people like this. I'm going trick-or-treat with my aunt, like I said. Boom, we get to the corner. One of the drug dealers that I knew real good on the corner was talking to my aunt. You know, I'm over there standing on the side. I really know what's going on. One thing about me as a kid, I always knew what was going on. I don't care, even when I was 6, I kind of knew, like, I knew who they was scheming, and I knew they was lying and doing certain stuff. But like I said, it became normal to me. So my first brush with really like bargaining myself and sacrificing my own self once in a moment, what I really felt like I needed as a kid and really wanted to do, and I gave that away because I wanted to like people please. That's another thing. This is a part of my people pleasing that I still struggle with to this day. So yeah, my aunt bargained. She asked me, she said, yo, you want to sell your mask to him? And then I'll just give you $5 to buy candy at the corner store. And then we could go and tell your grandmother, which is her mother, tell your grandmother that you went trick-or-treating. And I'm like, all right, cool. And like, once again, I ain't throwing no shade. If any of my family members hear this, I ain't throwing no shade. I'm just telling my truth, right? Because this is one of the things that affected me, that I had to deal with in my adulthood, right? So I'm like, yeah, because as a child, you don't want to like displease your aunt or your uncle or your caretakers or nobody that's supposed to be looking out for you. You feel like you're doing them a favor. So I'm like, yeah, my aunt do stuff for me all the time. Of course I'm gonna do it. But I'm knowing this is helping her habit. So me being aware of that too is like kind of putting some guilt on a child at a time. A child shouldn't even be dealing with guilt. And then I gotta go kind of like, if my grandmother asks me anything, hopefully she don't, I gotta lie to her at 9 or 10 years old. So you follow what I'm saying? But me being a child, I wanted to please my aunt, so I sold the mask to the guy, got the $5, went to the corner store, bought bullshit ass candy instead of going trick-or-treating, which I really wanted to do at 9 or 10 years old. I wanted to have fun, I wanted to travel, I wanted to get out the house, I wanted everybody to see my costume, mask, or whatever I had at the time. But I bargained that. I gave it up to please my aunt. And this past month, I've just been looking at the first time I had certain experiences that gave me certain triggers. I had to look at that, and I was like, yo, like, damn, it's funny as hell looking back. Like, yo, how your aunt go and sell the mask off your face? Like, on Halloween. Like, ain't no October 32nd. You ain't about to get another trick or treat, ain't nothing. You get this one time. We walked to one corner. I ain't even get a piece of candy yet, and I had to sell my mask. So that was my first time really like bargaining and negotiating my wants and needs and putting somebody else's before mine, when really like it was supposed to be the other way around. I'm just giving y'all examples so you can see how one distorted person and one distorted perspective and lifestyle can affect another. And that's all we doing here as a collective. That's really my point. I want to encourage people, encourage my listeners, and encourage my subscribers. Like, yo, it's like time traveling. I'm gonna do a podcast on time traveling. You know, it's like going back to a time in the past when you were a child, but you going back with the mature mind state, and you still learning, you still bringing back wisdom from that experience, but you have a broader perspective now, and it can help you now. And this is how we go in the past, and we bring it to the present, and we can change our future. I'm gonna do a podcast on time traveling, but and like that's how we time travel. It's really just that simple though. And that's like, I feel like that's our gift. Like, let me talk about it right now. I feel like that's our gift, that we're able to go back and bring something from the past and look at it and flip it up and have so many different perspectives on it. And it could keep on grooming us. We could keep on elevating us. We could keep on growing through those experiences. And this is my point. Like, don't allow the shit that happened in the past. Don't allow the things that seem not cool. Don't allow the things that the reason why you might have got called weird and shit like that. Don't allow that to be something bad in your world, or something evil in your world. Those are the exact things that make you who you are. And until you integrate those things, you ain't gonna be able to function right, because it's a part of you. It's like when you get a instruction manual and you got bolts and you got nuts and screws and you just put it together how you want and don't use all the screws. It's not gonna function right. I hope that's a good analogy. That's just off the top of my head right now. You want to have all working parts. So if you neglect the darker parts, the not so good, not so acceptable parts, if you don't integrate that within yourself and understand why you had these tendencies and go back and see what actually transpired and how you were manipulated and things of that nature to ultimately become somebody like that. And I want to keep on having these conversations. I probably want to do make this into a thing where I do part 1, part 2, part 3, but this is just pretty much an introduction to what you can expect in 2021 coming from my YouTube channel and my podcast, because
you are now listening to the Internal Affairs
for
podcast.
me, it's actually a release for me to be able to speak on the things that ultimately make me who I am, and not have to feel like I gotta tuck it away or make it into some big old bad boogeyman or demon, or have it really just truly control my life and ruin all of my relationships. Just ruin my whole, like I like to say, ruin my destiny, period. Because you ain't gonna reach your goal, you're not gonna reach your destiny, you're not gonna be the greatest version of yourself until you're actually yourself. And yourself includes the trauma that happened. It includes the good things that happen. It includes the weird shit that you think is weird. It includes the things that is not so acceptable. It includes your insecurities, your doubts, your flaws, all of that. We have to be able to, I'm starting to understand this now as a grown man. We have to be able to carry this with us, because if we turn the eye away from it, it's going to control us. And like I said, you'll find yourself in all type of circumstances and situations, and find yourself ruining relationships that probably could have went well for you, jobs that could have went well for you. It's something that will definitely block you from ever finding purpose in life or finding your purpose in general. So, like I said, I feel like we pretty much ain't had no choice in 2020. It brought us closer to the mirror, but 2021 is where we really are forced to apply and put in some work towards the things that we've seen. And it'd be ugly as hell when you look at that shadow. It'd be ugly as hell when you look at that closet. But like I said, let me remind you, everything in that closet is yours, because you got to be accountable for it. But at the same time, you could give yourself some relief and let go of the guilt and the shame and the fear of being considered a bad person, or being considered inadequate or weird or less than, or whatever you want to call it. You could look at the shit and be like, yo, hey, it happened, or hey, this is what I did and I ain't really know no better, or maybe I did know better but now I want to do better. You know what I mean? It ain't just because you did something that's not so good or not so acceptable does not mean that you're any less of a person, or does not void you from flourishing or becoming your greatest version of yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there. What else? I just really wanted to kick it with y'all anyway, because a lot of times I do the podcast and I pretty much just come on here, I give a message and I hop right off, and I feel like it be rushed a lot of times, and I don't just kick it. So this year I want to get more intimate with y'all, get more acclimated. You know what I mean? Hit me, comment. I want y'all to comment. I want y'all to email me. Y'all can email me at internalaffairs11, spelled just like the podcast, at gmail.com. That's Internal Affairs, spelled with a Z, 11 at gmail.com. Or you can comment on the YouTube page, or wherever you see this at. You might see it on Facebook, you might see it on Instagram, wherever you see it at. If you see it on Creators District LLC Affairz.com. Leave a comment or whatever. But yeah, this is the year where you're not going to be able to. The old just ain't going to really work. And like I said, it's a necessary thing, but it's in your face now. It's immediate now. And I can't help but notice, like, everybody I talk to, everybody I kick it with, pretty much, whether they know it or not, they dealing with their shadow. They dealing with the darker aspects of themselves. They dealing with the same old cycles over and over again, where they keep on doing the same old shit, the same old patterns. It's really deep. This how deep it is. Like I'm so traumatized from a lot of shit, yo. It's crazy. And it's funny as a man now to look back and see where it come from. Like my mom, right? My mom is a gorgeous woman, a gorgeous woman. She always has been. She always dressed in heels and nice things and jewelry and red lipstick, and she used to go out and chill. She had us when she was young. So I lived with my grandmother, and my mother would always stop by, come in and run out. She was busy, so I would want my mother to stay in the house. Like, I would be waiting for her to come, and my tail would be wagging when she come in the house. I'd be like, uh-oh, mommy in the house. But I know she always had the tendency to run back out, or somebody wanted to talk to her or need her for something. So it was this thing that when my mother come in the house at night and I would want her to stay in the house, I'm in the bed or I'm doing whatever, I'm playing the game or doing whatever I'm doing, and I hear her in the bathroom and she's jiggling keys. I hear her heels hitting the ground. I'm hearing spray and music, and I'm smelling cigarettes and stuff. I just know she's about to go out, right? And it was nothing I could do about it. Whether I said, a lot of times I ain't say nothing, but whether I said something or not, she was going to do what she was going to do. So fast forward to me being an adult, right? A lot of the relationships I've been in, I got a pet peeve. Like, if the woman walk away from me while I'm talking, it's like the end of the world. Or if I'm just chilling at home and my girl, she just, was to be getting up, getting ready to go out, just like how my mom used to be doing, just to have fun and chill. It automatically triggered me, put me back in the sunken place, and I'm looking at her like, what you think you doing? I couldn't stop this when I was little, but I'm about to stop this now. You ain't going nowhere. Or when you do get out, I'm gonna text you all night and ruin your whole night. And these are the things I used to do. And it's funny that when I really had to take time and chill and look back, I'm like, yo, damn. This is all stemming from when I was a little boy. So I am letting a child control my life even as a grown man, right? Even my grandmother used to, she was the head of the house. She was the head of the kingdom. She was the queen. If my grandmother got in the mood, if my grandmother felt some type of way, you could feel it in the whole house. Everybody would be walking on eggshells. And it was because, you just felt like, damn, we got grandma mad, she displeased with us. It's like the look she would give, or the feeling, the vibe you would get, like you did the worst thing in the world. So I noticed this in the past throughout my relationships, like when a woman is looking at me like I did the worst thing in the world, or she displeased, I'm looking like, and I go back into that little boy stage and I'm walking on eggshells again. It's like, yo, the household ain't right if the woman is not cool with it, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, nah, that ain't right. I need to be able to be a man and be myself wherever I'm at. But these are the things that we just breeze by. These are the things that we just overlook, but we still carrying out these patterns. We still jumping from Sally to Susie. We jumping from Johnny to Joey. We can't get it right. We can't keep a job. We don't know what our purpose on this earth is. We don't feel right in our own skin. We don't feel like we can just be ourselves. And like I said, it's going to always go back to the integration of all of the things that make you who you are. And a lot of those things are ugly. A lot of those things are traumatizing. And a lot of the things you probably forgot. Like, sometimes you have to really sit down and really want to know and write and start to journal and do all type of things to recollect a lot of these experiences, because they so ingrained in you. And like I said, as a child, by default, you just automatically wanted to forget about them. So you tuck them in the back. And when you tuck them in the back as an adult, it hide from you. But it's the truth, yo. And it's amazing once you open that bag. I realize how comedians make their money. They went through a whole bunch of bullshit, And then they realize, like, I ain't gotta feel guilty about this. I don't gotta feel shameful about this. This is me. This happened to me. I'm cool. This regular. But they get down to that bone. They get down to that why. And when they get there, it all start to make sense to you. And they be like, yo, this is something I could use for humor. This is something I could use, pick myself up, and that for not for nothing else, as a release, as a healing for yourself and for other people. So that's all I'm trying to do in 2021. I'm just trying to get more of myself, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'm trying to understand more of myself, the good, the bad, the ugly, and not be ashamed or guilty about who I am and nothing that transpired in this entire life. And the more that I do that, the more that I practice that, the more freedom I get, the more permission I get to be me, the more enthusiasm and conviction I get to be me, to show up as me holistically on a day-to-day basis from the best of my awareness. Because you sometimes you just don't know what you just don't know. Sometimes you're just an asshole and can't help it. Cause shit, like, I got this thing, like, this is another story. I got this thing with me, like, I'm from a family, like, we quick with it. My grandmother was from Georgia, so you couldn't be in the house if you ain't have a mouth on you. Like, you had to be, you know what I'm saying? You had to be crazy with your comebacks. It had to be like, yo, somebody say this, you right back at them. And even a community I'm from. So now I've been moving around to, like, areas where people move a little slower too. You know what I'm saying? They take their time. It really has been no rush. I'll be on some shit like, if it's simple, let's just hurry up and get it out the way and move on to the more important things of life. Having them in a rush, and that's another tendency that I realized that I need to work on. There's just a lot of shit, and I'ma just keep on sharing it with you so that maybe you could see some of these tendencies in yourself, or see some tendencies in yourself and be like, shit, I need to change that too. I got some shit with me too. I think this is the year where you just need to bow out and just submit to some of your shit, and from there you're gonna see your relationship with yourself transform first and foremost, and then it'll trickle on down with others. I'm in a phase where I'm just getting cool with myself, like, to be honest. And I thought I've been cool with myself my whole life, but the more I unfold, the more I dig, and the more sincere I am about understanding who I am, knowing who I am, and showing up as who I am, the more I'm on it like that, the more revealing it is for me, and the more I realize that I have to give and I have to share, regardless of what the label is on the type of things I've done, or the type of things I've seen, or the type of person I might be considered for these things. Regardless of that, they're still valuable. I had to really, like, bang that in my own head. So yeah, bringing 2021 in, I will say I got a lot more intimate with myself, got a lot more real with myself, and it started with, like I said, just recognizing my truth, my whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and being like, yo, you come from a crazy ass background, bro. Things wasn't always cookie crunch. Don't ignore that, because it's a lot of knowledge and wisdom about yourself and about the world and everything that's in that. And once I looked at that and realized that, yo, your scars, your flaws, they have a lot of wisdom in them. But you just gotta take the time out to dig in that bag. And when you dig in that bag, then you're gonna really be in your bag, and you're gonna be comfortable in your own skin, and you don't have to question yourself, and feel comfortable in every room you step in, and not have that feeling like you need to overcompensate and things like that. Let's talk about that while I'm at it. I'm just gonna keep it going. Let's talk about that. Overcompensation. Like, here go another quick story. When I grew up playing basketball, so my ID to this day is pretty much basketball. When everybody from my city, they see me, they think basketball, they think I'm playing basketball, they thinking that why you ain't go to the NBA, all type of stuff. So when you play basketball or you play any type of sport, you get certain accolades, you get treated a certain way, you get you just get certain privileges that a lot of other kids don't get. So when I was playing basketball, that was my little ticket. I noticed, I could get some sneakers now. You know what I'm saying? I could get a free trip now. Oh, the girls kind of cheering for me. They looking. People want to hang with me a little bit more. And then at the same time, I had like I said, no dad. Then I had my mom just in and out, because my grandmother raised me. And it wasn't like I always wanted my mom to see, like, yo, you had 30 points, you had 35 points, you the man. I wanted her to give me my you know what I'm saying, give me some type of to, what's the word I'm looking for? To validate me. You feel me? And when she wasn't doing that, and not intentionally, there was a lot going on. She had her own life. I totally understand that. But as a child, I'm like, all right, I ain't getting it from my mother. Everybody in the streets giving it to me. This is how it works. I felt like, damn, I have to earn it. I have to earn my love. I have to earn my validation, earn my value. So I use basketball in an obsessive way to get me that recognition, to give me that love, to fill that void that I was missing. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. And that's why I look back like, I ain't have a lot of fun playing ball. I just wanted to win, score a whole lot of points, get a whole lot of attention, free things, privileges, and I wanted my name to be held amongst the highest of the high, because I wanted to always be grandiose. I always felt like I had to be bigger than life, because the main person that you wanted to look at you when they ain't really paying you no mind, then you feel like, I gotta do some extra shit. And that's why we got a lot of kids out here killing, a lot of kids out here joining gangs, and they be misunderstood. But when we start having these type of conversations, when we start being a little bit more real and a little bit more intimate, and stop being scared to talk about what's really on your mind, then we gonna get somewhere. But and that's only for those of us with the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Everybody not there. Everybody not ready to even admit that they wrong in a lot of situations. So, like I said, and that's the first step. You know what I mean? Realizing that something is wrong, realizing that something's not wrong, or realizing that you just need to give yourself some real true attention and self-care and self-love. A lot of people be like, it's all about self-love and just loving yourself, but I don't think people realize how deep that go. It's not that easy to love yourself when you realize, oh shit, I've been being not such a healthy person. I haven't been such a healthy friend, a healthy sibling, or I haven't been reciprocating back the same energy that's been given towards me in a positive way. When you realize that stuff all at one time, and then you have to go lay down at night and sleep with yourself, it'd be hard. And this is why we keep playing the Jekyll and Hyde game, where we see this shit, then we want to look away, act like it ain't really there, act like it ain't happened, tell ourselves a different story in our head and move along. But the thing about it is that pattern, that knee-jerk reaction, and that tendency is going to bubble up somewhere else. And this is my message. It's just like, you can't shake it. I got another video on my YouTube page with Peppa Pig where they was talking about outrunning the shadow. Peppa Pig was like, we gonna outrun our shadow. You can go look at it on my YouTube page, on Creators District YouTube page. She was talking about outrunning the shadow, and the elephant told her, like, you could never outrun your shadow. And that was a cartoon. He was just telling her, like, you can't get away from you. You have to learn how to forgive, learn how to get over the denial that you got these issues, and be alright with it and work with it and move on. The same way you would try to help your homie out or help your friend out, you would tell them it's alright. You gotta kind of do the same thing for yourself. And that's something I realize, and it's so healing for me, and it's so much of a release for me, and it give me hope. Because a lot of people that know me, that's close to me, they see me doing new things and they think everything is all perfect and everything is all good because you might not live in the city no more, or you moved away. But the reality is, life is right here. And the same way life is changing for me, life is changing for you, life is changing for everybody. And we cannot define ourselves by one experience that we had. We can't define ourselves by one achievement that we had. We have to keep growing, keep moving, keep evolving. And if I want to do that, and if anybody that's listening want to do that, it's going to start with being holistic about the situation. You know how we be like, keep it 100. Keeping it 100 is keeping it real about the fact that you might be fucked up, that you might be the toxic one, that you might got the issues right now, that you might need some healing, you know what I mean? And until we get there, it's just going to be a loop. I promise you that. Because it's going to keep on controlling you, and you're going to keep getting the same results, and you're going to have a hellish reality to where you're wondering, why does the same thing keep on happening? If you do have a realization, you're going to realize you're the common denominator in the whole situation. So you always ask people, what did you do? When they come talking to me about 10 people, I'm like, okay, what part did you play? Like, scrap all of them out. How did you allow that to happen? This, that, and the third. And then once we get to the bottom of that, you got to get ready to answer your why. And your why might take you back to when you was 4, 5, 10 years old, I'm telling you. So I just wanted to kick it with y'all for a second. I wanted to let y'all know more of what y'all could expect this year. We doing things a little bit different. I should have some guests on this year, everything. I want to expand and broaden my horizons and collaborate and things of that nature. So I hope you got something up out of this. I hope take heed and continue to elevate on your journey. And I'm going to holler at y'all on the next one.
You are now listening to the Internal Affairs podcast.